Performance anxieties, recruiting the support of men and women for lasting gender equality. I'm here to recruit men to support gender equality. Michael Kimmel, sociologist, author, professor, and speaker. TED Women 2015, Monterey, California. I will never forget the first time I saw Michael Kimmel's 2015 TED Talk, Why Gender Equality is Good for Everyone, Men Included. Something made me uncomfortable watching his reaction to the rousing applause from a predominantly female audience following the delivery of his opening line above. Kimmel went on for 16 minutes, and my sense of unease only grew. It wasn't his content, at least not the bulk of it. Like Kimmel, I believe it is extremely important for men to support gender equality. It was more about the way Kimmel, a one-time gender studies professor at SUNY Stony Brook and sought-after masculinity author, expert, and speaker, framed his message and the way he portrayed men. Kimmel's 16 minutes to me felt, shall we say, unequal, as if he was performing allyship for the predominantly female audience at the expense of real equality for both genders. Note, in 2018, Stony Brook University ended its association with Kimmel as a faculty member following a series of disclosures by women of sexual harassment and sexist behavior. As a result of his not being employed at Stony Brook, the university terminated a Title IX investigation into the allegations. No details about the investigation were disclosed and no official charges were filed by the institution. That same year, Kimmel resigned from the board of Pro Mundo, an initiative to promote gender justice. Getting it right and wrong. Let's address the two main points that Kimmel gets right in his TED Talk, opinions that appear in dozens of his other public comments and interviews. Men do need to hear and consider these core messages. Gender equality is good for all of us. When anyone has fewer rights in a society, everyone has fewer rights. Women are equally capable of contributing in the workplace, in the military, in politics. By restricting a woman's ability to participate to their fullest is both wrong for them individually and damaging to the greater good of society. What we need to do is develop a society that supports humans. Number two, making gender visible helps engage men in supporting gender equality. For the world to improve, men need to grow their awareness about the restrictions and privileges society imposes differently on men and women. For example, as a man, I get to enjoy the peace and seclusion walking my dog on a local trail without much thought for attracting physical harm. Helping ensure that more men understand this inequality will help us work towards fewer men being raised with a propensity for assaulting women. Where Kimmel goes awry is when he frames his description of men around the worst examples. For instance, Kimmel claims that one of his most popular books, Angry White Men, emerged from a powerful experience he had appearing with a group of angry white men on a daytime talk show. He has never identified which one. He recounts that experience in his TED Women talk. They all told their stories, qualified for jobs, qualified for promotions, didn't get it, really angry. And then it was my turn to speak, and I said, I have just one question for you guys, and it's about the title of the show. A black woman stole my job. Actually, it's about one word in the title. I want to know about the word my. Where did you get the idea it was your job? Kimmel then uses this experience to articulate one of his most often stated theories, that men have a sense of entitlement to their position in society. Without confronting men's sense of entitlement, I don't think we'll ever understand why so many men resist gender equality. Holding his hand downward, Kimmel continues. Look, we think this is a level playing field, so any policy that tilts it even a little bit, we think, oh my God, water's rushing uphill. It's reverse discrimination against us. This section is the most replayed segment of the YouTube video. What Kimmel never addresses is how the daytime talk show panel likely was handpicked for rage bait, a format designed to feed America's pre-social media dopamine addiction. For further reference, Google Jerry Springer or Sally Jesse Raphael. In the succeeding years from that appearance, public opinions about gender had progressed dramatically. In 2016, Pew Research reported that 41% of men believed that there were still significant obstacles that make it harder for women to get ahead than men, with nearly 70% of Democrat and Democrat leaning men agreeing with that statement. Taking those male panelists as a representative sample of men was Kimmel's rhetorical bid for membership in the Gender Equality Ally Club. Later in his talk, Kimmel also played to the crowd with his lazy use of the men are led by their genitals trope when talking about how men sharing more household labor will make their partners want to have more sex with them. He also spent time describing men's ties as having a noose at the top and pointing to their genitals at the bottom. That is mind-body dualism right there. Kimmel also portrayed the broad swath of older men as being stuck in patriarchal 1950s America, stating that it was young men leading the male gender equality charge. But just a year later, a Pew Research survey showed that older men actually held stronger convictions in favor of gender equality versus younger men. A man who had spent his whole career studying data didn't even get his facts right. Finally, throughout the latter part of his public speaking career, Kimmel repeatedly asked men to walk in the shoes of women. But when presented at TED Women with an audience predominantly made up of women, he never asked the same of his female audience to explore the unequal ways men are raised and how society's definition of what it means to be a man nurtures a perpetual breeding ground for aggrieved, entitled males, listening to real men's voices. Recently, Jay Benson, a young man and fellow masculinity Substack author, engaged with me over something I had written in Substack notes. He was agitated because he felt what I said didn't represent the genuine harm that young men like him are suffering through today. We shared a few DMs back and forth and eventually held a Zoom call where we discussed our lived experiences, 30 plus years age difference, and more importantly, discovered a lot of common ground. Subsequently, in a recent essay, Jay wrote, masculinity is discussed either as a problem to be managed or a set of expectations to be quietly optimized around. Focusing on Richard Reeves and Scott Galloway, Benson challenged Reeves' public policy recommendations and Galloway's alpha male bromides. As Benson writes, until we repair the cultural definition of masculinity, until being a man means more than adaptation or optimization, every solution will feel either insulting or empty. That's the way I felt at the end of Michael Kimmel's TED Talk, insulted and empty. And so did a lot of men, as you can see in some of the YouTube videos' comments. Damn, I'm running late for my weekly meeting of the patriarchy. Sadly, I will have to cut this off here at the 6-minute mark. Equality succeeds when support travels in both directions, making both halves whole. In many respects, Michael Kimmel's TED Women Talk forms like a formative allyship. Easy, low cost, highly visible support that doesn't challenge the full and often uncomfortable status quo for every audience. Like his closing, a reference to Floyd Dell's 1914 essay, Feminism for Men. Here, Kimmel glosses over the finer points of a 2,500-word article by only quoting Dell's opening sentence. Feminism is going to make it possible for the first time for men to be free. What Kimmel fails to expand on is Dell's compelling argument about how early 20th century norms, defining men as breadwinners and limiting women to homekeepers, hollows out men's souls and undermines real male-female companionship. Half a life, cooking clothes and children, half a life, business, politics, and baseball. It doesn't make much difference which is the poorer half. 111 years later, feminism has dramatically expanded female identity, while men remain prisoners to those same early 20th century expectations. Men and women should be allies to each other in our mutual fight for equality and equanimity. I'm not here to perform allyship for any gender. I'm here to recruit humans into the fight for human equality. If we don't truly dedicate ourselves to altering the systems, emotional, political, economic, that limit men, we will never solve for the inequality of women. we'll just find ourselves selling tickets to the next performative TED Talk 10 years from now.